What's going on, everybody? My name is Jake, and welcome to the UFC London official picks and breakdown. Obviously, we're going to combine the picks and the betting stuff all into one. I've been super busy this week. Also, have been a little bit under the weather here in Ohio. Man, the weather just fucking kicks your ass. Like, it was 70 degrees on Sunday when I recorded the recap. Feeling good. A recap of UFC Vegas 114. Feeling good. Everything. Next day was like 30 degrees. The next day after it was like 27, and it just fucked with my system. So I've been a little bit sick, had some other stuff going on, plans and everything. So been busy this week, so I'm going to combine the picks and the betting stuff all into one. We're not going to have separate videos, which is a little disappointing for me, but it is what it is. I got some stuff to catch up on across the channel as well. So anyway, we'll do the ROI stuff at the end of the video. If you're new here and want to know how I'm doing on the year, just watch the last video where I gave my recap. So I want to start this off. I'm going to a disclaimer. Very good thing. I'm playing with a lot of house money this week because on DraftKings, they do every Tuesday during basketball season, they do King of the Court, which is where you pick someone's PRAs. If they go over that and are in the top three, or sometime, I don't know if they have to be the outright winner, but I know like at the bare minimum, they have to be in the top three for you to get bonus bets. Anyway, I picked Jalen Duren because he was playing the Wizards, and the Wizards just let Bam Adebayo play 83 points. He just scored 83 fucking points. I can't talk. I'm also watching March Madness. I just saw my alma mater lose earlier today on a game winner, so that was disappointing. But I'm watching Duke fucking losing to Siena, but they're starting to come back. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. So I got Jalen Duren. He went for 50 PRAs. I'm going to have like the slips and everything and how close it was attached to this as well. Next closest was LaMelo Ball, 49. So Jalen Duren on Tuesday had the most PRAs in the entire NBA. And I'm thinking I might get a decent chunk for that because Duren's a good player, but he's not like one of the superstars that you'd normally figure. Like Jokic played that day, Shea played that day, a couple superstars played. And so I'm thinking there's no way a ton of people took Jalen Duren, because again, not that he's a bad player, he's just not a superstar like them. Long story short, I got $1,056 in bonus bets. So yeah, I'm gonna be playing with a lot of house money this week. Now, let me get into this. Like with the bets, I still placed actual wagers, on the stuff that basically I'm using the bonus bets because they break them up in increments of 50. It was like 20 $50 bonus bets and then two $28. So I'm basically just playing what I was usually going to play with my regular wagers and then just adding the bonus bets on top of that. So disclaimer there, I've got a very good likelihood, although I don't want to jinx it, although I certainly just did. I've got a good likelihood to be in the green next week. But how good I do depends on my actual picks. Because, again, I'm going to be using the bonus bets on picks that I was going to play anyway. So it just lets me have bigger wagers, with house money, which I'm excited about. But, we'll see how it goes. But anyway, I wanted to get that out of the way. Felt really, really good. I was at work when they deposited my bonus bets. I wish they would just give you, actual cash. That way you can just withdraw, but I understand why they don't. So yeah, I'm going to be playing with a lot of house money, but still going to be wagering the same as if I always would. So anyway, with that out of the way, I'm going to run through some of these pretty quick because I'm not going to have a ton on fights like Melissa Mullins and Luana Carolina. Give me Luana Carolina. It's basically a pick 'em. As far as, Melissa Mullins, I see this fight going one of two ways. If she gets the grappling going, she's going to win. If she can't get the takedowns and it's a striking battle, Luana Carolina is going to win. Something in me is just telling me the poor fight IQ for Melissa Mullins. And, Luana Carolina has a win over Lupe Godinez back in the day. I know MMA math isn't always reliable, but I'm just going to go with my gut here. Luana Carolina on the money line. Or if you want to play a decision, I believe is plus 160 on FanDuel, but it's plus money there. That's what I'm going to play. Moving on to the next fight, Luana Carolina is my pick. Chanel Dyer and Ravina Oliveira. Chanel Dyer making her UFC debut despite losing her Contender Series fight. Now, I believe that was a pretty entertaining fight, and if I'm not mistaken, her opponent was pretty highly touted, and then maybe she popped for PEDs. I could be wrong on that. Maybe I'm thinking of something else, but something else. uh, anyway, Chanel Dyer at minus 480, I believe it is now, in a women's MMA UFC debut is absolutely diabolical. However, if you do the TKO, KO, TKO, or decision double chance, you get that down to about minus 310, 290, 310 range. So that gives you a little extra value, but even then, I'd maybe stay away. I'm actually going to look to play her to win by knockout with one of those bonus bets at plus 290, I want to say. So, yeah, these first two women's fights, I'm confident in Chanel Dyer to win, but there's just no value here for the betting. I think the TKO prop is live. She's a pretty good striker, and Ravina Oliveira, I think, will trade. And why not get the hometown girl or home country girl in her UFC debut to get a knockout here at some decent odds. Next fight, Shamrock and Hakeem Al-Sawadi. Abdul Karim Al-Sawadi. I was way wrong on that first name. Al-Sawadi hasn't fought in like 2 years. I don't know if he has a win in the UFC. No, he's 0-1. So, not exactly the best fighter. He's not terrible, I wouldn't say. Shamrock lost his UFC debut to Nurullo Aliyev. I don't really dock him too much for that. I think Nurullo Aliyev's pretty good. He's kind of like a, clearance version of Khabib. Not that he's probably never going to be towards the level of what Khabib was, but they're kind of similar in the way they fight. So I don't really knock him too much for losing that. Again, this is kind of similar to Melissa Mullins and Luana Carolina in a way, where Shamrock's going to have a big advantage in this fight if it's on the mat, and he can get that submission game going. He's got, I believe, 9 or 10 submissions in his 12 wins. But if this stays on the feet, he's kind of got a wonky striking style. He's got decent kicks, and El-Sawadi has been chinned multiple times, so who knows, something wild could happen. But I really favor this if it gets to the ground for Shamrock, or Shaquem Rock, as his actual name is. He trains with Paddy Pimblett and Luke Riley, who's the co-main event on this card. He talks a lot of shit. I think he's a fun guy, and again, kind of a coin flip fight for me. I'm going to take the plus money. But also at the same time, it's like, Al-Sawadi hasn't fought in 2 years. He's not terrible, but he's not that great to begin with. And it's like, now you're coming into London. I don't know. I just think this lines up very well for Shamrock to win. I know that's not like a very technical breakdown or logic to picking him, but plus money, give me Shamrock for the win. Next fight is Louis Sutherland and Brando Pericic. I'm going to go Brando Pericic in this one. I think he knocks out Louis Sutherland, who I don't think has ever been knocked out, if I'm not mistaken. No, he hasn't. 8 wins by knockout, none. He's never been knocked out. He's gone to decision 5 times, which is kind of crazy for like a heavyweight prospect, because, that just shows you maybe the gas tank isn't terrible. But this dude went viral because of his profile picture on Tapology. Like, he's got these giant boulder traps and whatever the hell the LFL is. But he fought Walter Volker in his debut and got heel hooked, which really no sweat off your back there. Walter Volker heel hooks everyone, but the difference in physique between this picture that if you look on Tapology and his regional scene and his UFC debut, bro, this dude was on the juice back then. And Brando Pericic, he's at City Kickboxing. He looked really good in his UFC debut, albeit against Alicia Ellison, who I don't think is in the UFC anymore. But he did what you need to do. He crushed a can, or maybe if you don't even consider it a can, he made it look easy. I think he's, Sutherland could maybe get the wrestling going, but I just trust, as zesty as they are, I'm going to trust that City Kickboxing camp. I think Brando Pericic is a good heavyweight prospect. He's really fast for the division. And again, it's going to be hard to knock out Louis Sutherland, but I just think he's going to land the much more accurate and damaging shots. Louis Sutherland's obviously got a puncher's chance, especially at this weight class, but I'm going to go Brando Pericic to get the knockout win. And specifically, I took a bet. It's Brando Pericic and under 1.5 rounds. Parlayed together is plus 100 on the dot. But also Brando Pericic by knockout, I believe. Or maybe it's knockout round one. Something was minus 105, but I didn't bet on it. I just took the, I don't know. Maybe Pericic has a submission. He does have a submission on his professional record. So Brando Pericic to win and under 1.5 rounds is going to be where I go there. Next fight, let's be quick with this one. Antonio Trocoli, the poker player. I mean, this dude, I think, has said publicly that the UFC is not his mainstream of revenue now. It's his poker play. Montes Kondratavicius should knock him out in the first round, but I wouldn't put it past Antonio Trocoli to be standing guillotine for the third fight in a row. He did it to Tresean fucking Gore and then Mansour Abdul Malik in his most recent fight. So I don't know if Kondratavicius has a great submission game. He's got 2 submission wins on his record. He's been subbed once, but 6 of his wins are by knockout. So he's finished all of his wins. So he should knock out Antonio Trocoli in the first round here. Anything less would probably be a disappointment. This should be a quick one. This one next should also be a quick one. Mario Pinto and Felipe Franco. Mario Pinto, I think, is a legitimate heavyweight prospect. He was supposed to fight Mick Parkin for a shot at the rankings, and I really hope they just rebook that after this, unless Pinto loses as a minus 900 favorite. I just took Mario Pinto to win in round 1. It's plus money. I was honestly shocked by that because Felipe Franco lost to Freddie Vidal on Contender Series, and despite the fact that Vidal submitted Franco, he didn't get a contract, and then I think he ended up losing another Contender Series bout and then testing positive for PEDs. Felipe Franco is just a can crusher. He should get absolutely dominated here by Mario Pinto. I was shocked to see plus odds for Mario Pinto to win in round 1, unless the books know something I don't, which they probably do. But yeah, give me Mario Pinto to win in round 1 at plus 110. He should make it look really easy. Next fight should be a pretty fun one. Losing Kita making his UFC debut against Nathaniel Wood. This is a tough debut. You know, Nathaniel Wood just went out and beat Jose Delgado. That might have been a split decision, but really back and forth fight. You know, he got dropped by Delgado, then he dropped Delgado, wound up winning. And Losing Kita's got a ton of power and is definitely going to be live for the knockout, which I will get to. But if he doesn't get Nathaniel Wood out of there, I could really see Nathaniel Wood point fighting his way to a victory in London. And I think Nathaniel Wood, just from what I've watched, is one of the more popular dog picks, and I get that. But I'm really high on Losing Kita, and the fact that he missed weight for his UFC debut and got the fight canceled, there's our weekly cat cameo, against Patricio Pitbull. Pitbull refused to take the fight after Keita weighed in. I believe at 149, he was supposed to be at featherweight, so 145. Weighed in at 149. I believe Pitbull refused the fight. And the fact that the UFC did not cut him right there tells you kind of what they think. And the fact that they're giving him a pretty good fighter in Nathaniel Wood tells you, at least in my opinion, tells you what they think of him. He is a dynamite striker, two-time or double division champ in Octagon, which I know, take that with a grain of salt with some of these regional promotions, but I think he's going to come out here and knock out Nathaniel Wood. I really do. If he doesn't, Nathaniel Wood is obviously live, and I could look stupid here, but I'm going to go Losing Keita by knockout at plus 140. I think he makes a statement here in his UFC debut and could be a really, really bright prospect. He's only 28, I believe. Yeah, 28. So fairly young. If he wins this, we could see a rankings fight right after that for him. And then, who knows? If he keeps stacking together wins, featherweight's going to be pretty wide open here in a year or so when Volk retires. So this could be a pretty tantalizing prospect, if you will. Next fight is Mason Jones and Axel Sola. Mason Jones, super tough since he's been back in the UFC. He's looked good. His last fight, he was in some dire straits with Belagioki, ends up rallying and winning that fight by finish himself. Mason Jones is, this is basically a pick 'em. so it's not a dog shot, but this is one of the more favorite pick'ems, I guess you could say. And I get it. Mason Jones is super tough. Again, this is kind of a home fight. He's Welsh, so not having to travel very far. Axel Sola, the French fighters have not exactly been putting on the best performances. Umar Sy. I mean, I guess Cyril Gane for 4 minutes of that fight with Tom Aspinall before the eye pokes was looking good. But I'm actually going to go Axel Sola here on underdog shot. Him and Shamrock are my underdogs on this card. I think he's just going to be much better with the point fighting from the outside. He's taken this fight at 155. His last performance where he finished Reese McKee was at welterweight. Now he's coming back down to 155. So I'll be interested to see, what his weight cut is like and, what he looks like a lightweight. But I like Axel Sola. Again, this is kind of a coin flip fight for me. So I would say the finishing upside, I don't know, Mason Jones gets hit a lot. Mason Jones, I don't know. I'm just not as high on him as I should be. He burned me last fight because I had Bellagioki, and Bellagioki looked like he was going to win, and then he ended up getting finished once Mason Jones got the grappling going. I don't know. I just got a feeling about Axel Sola. That's ultimately what this is coming down to. Plus money. I like the undefeated prospect, albeit he's French, so this will probably age poorly. But I'm going to go Axel Sola here, straight up on the money line at plus 104. Next fight, we get another prospect here. Curtis Campbell making his UFC debut against Danny Silva, the Pink Panther, Four Eyes, whatever you want to call him. He's a goofy-ass looking dude, but don't let looks fool you. He's a pretty good fighter, and I'm going to take him to win by sub or decision. However, I think Danny Silva could keep it close, so I took him at plus 5.5 on the spread. Everyone's going to tell you, and I've said this before, I don't want to give flowers too much for guys that lose, but at the end of the day, he gave Kevin Vallejos his toughest fight in the UFC, not including his Contender Series fight against Sean Silva. So, Danny Silva's really tough. He's never been finished, but I think if Curtis Campbell gets the wrestling going, he's got some pretty good ground and pound. Even though he only has one submission, I think he could be live for a sub too, which is why I have the sub or decision line. The line, I think he's a little over 2-1, maybe could be closer. But again, if he gets the wrestling going and stays on top, he's going to look, 3 or 4-1 in this. So I'm going to go Curtis Campbell, goofy looking dude, but I think this is a guy I can get behind from an entertainment and personality factor. Sub or decision, I'm going to specifically play the decision with one of those bonus bets because I have a hard time seeing him putting away Danny Silva, but it could definitely happen. Either way, give me the Pink Panther to win his UFC debut on the main card opener. Next fight, Roman Dolidze and CLD, Christian Leroy Duncan. Two guys in opposite trajectories, in my opinion. Roman Dolidze, albeit it was against Fluffy Hernandez, just got ran through. I mean, it got absolutely dominated by Fluffy. And CLD, what I've really liked from CLD is that he just looks so much better, and you can see the growth from fight to fight. Like, he loses to RoboCop, and then since then, he beat Eric Anders. He beat Andre Puliev, which that kind of aged a little bit better. Andre Puliev was the guy to not get knocked out by Etebe Gautier, and then knocked out Eric Anders in the first round. Eric Anders just won his retirement fight, so didn't exactly age horribly. And then the knockout against Marco Tulio as an underdog, that was super impressive. He's 30 years old. I think he's a rising prospect at middleweight. I just think Roman Dolidze is going to be so much slower. And, he'll probably have the advantage in, the wrestling if it gets there. But I like CLD's athleticism to be able to get up and avoid precarious positions, even if the fight does get to the ground. And the striking is going to be, levels apart. CLD is going to be way faster. I think he's going to do the more damaging shots. I'm really high on CLD. Obviously very chalk on his money line. He's up to like minus 480 now. But You can get that down to about minus 350 if you take the KO, TKO, or decision line. I definitely don't see him subbing Roman Dolidze. If he does, I would be shocked. And I couldn't decide if I thought it was going to be if he was going to knock out Roman Dolidze, which nobody's ever done before, or if he's just going to style his way to a 30-27 decision. So I also took him on the spread at minus 5.5. But two of the bonus bets were splitting them up here to, I think, not guarantee, because nothing's a guarantee in fighting, but put ourselves in a strong position to get some free money here with those big bonus bets. One by decision, one by knockout. They're both plus 130. I just couldn't decide which one, but yeah, I think CLD. I don't want to say. I want to give some respect to Dolidze and say he can maybe put up a fight, but I could also see CLD, making quick work of him. Maybe not quick work of him, but easy work of him. Next fight, Iwo Baranowski and Austin Lane. Iwo Baranowski had the greatest 3-minute fight of all time in his UFC debut against Ibo Aslan. That was the Iwo versus Ibo fight. And I think he knocks out Austin Lane here. Austin Lane has been knocked out 6 times before. His chin is just there to be hit. He's a huge guy, don't get me wrong, and a former NFL practice squad guy. So respect to him. I love football. So I don't want to see him get knocked out, but I'm just being realistic. I think that's what's going to happen. I think Iwo does it in the first round. Austin Lane coming down to light heavyweight is weird to me at age 38. I don't see him making weight, so honestly, I would not be surprised if this fight gets canceled, which obviously I would hate to see that because I want to see Iwo get a knockout here. But yeah, it's just a big weight cut, so he's going to be draining himself a lot. And this dude, Baranowski, man, he's a little on the shorter side for light heavyweight, but he is just looking to throw down, bar fight. I mean, we saw that in his last bout. So you could say that leaves the opportunity for the much bigger guy in Austin Lane to, find a shot himself. Austin Lane has 11 knockouts, so I'm not going to say it's impossible, but I am going to say it's improbable. Give me Iwo Baranowski by knockout in the first round. Parlay piece of knockout or submission, just him by finish, I believe is like minus 425. That's pretty steep, but maybe you could find some value there. But Baranowski knockout in round 1, minus 105 is going to be the play for me. Next fight. And I need to preface this by saying I'm going to have bias in this because Michael Venom Page is one of my favorite fighters. I love watching him. So, and from what I've been listening to, what I've seen is Sam Patterson's, along with Nathaniel Wood, is probably the most popular dog shot I've seen all week. But again, I can't pick against Michael Page. I have yet to pick against him ever since he got into the UFC. Even when he fought Ian Gary, I took him on the spread, and he lost 29-28. He beat Kevin Holland, he beat Jared Cannonier, and he beat Shar Bullet. And I believe Shar Bullet, he was an underdog. Kevin Holland and Cannonier, I believe he was the favorite. But I just love watching MVP fight, man. So I can't pick against him. He's one of my favorite fighters. I think he's entertaining as hell. And I think Sam Patterson's good, but I'm maybe not as high on him as some of these other people. Like, I just don't. I know he's on a good run, like 4 straight finishes, maybe all in the first round. Yeah, 4 straight first round finishes, but let's look at the names. Johan Leonis, I definitely butchered that pronunciation. Kiefer Crosby, Danny Barlow, who did look like a pretty good prospect at the time. I believe Sam Patterson was a pretty sizable favorite, but Danny Barlow just lost to Jordan Santos, so he's kind of turning out to be a bust in a way. And then Trey Waters, which Trey Waters isn't terrible, but I don't know. I just don't. None of these guys are MVP. And you're going to hear so many people say, well, they trained together, MVP and Sam Patterson. It is. It's like, yeah, but training is different from a fight, man. It's different from a fight. In training, you're trying to emulate something and you're giving your training partner looks. And, at the end of the day, there's not like danger to them, right? This is a fight. Like, this isn't Michael Venom Page, training to give you an edge for your upcoming fight and give you a look at something. This is him trying to beat you. And I think MVP is going to come in here a little angry. We've heard him say some of his frustrations with the matchmaking, and, I get it. he's kind of a difficult guy to match make because he's middleweight, welterweight. Where do you want to see him at against the higher level guys in both divisions? Really, he probably just gets grappled and loses. But against these rising prospects or even the ranked strikers, even prospects like Sam Patterson that can do both, I think he beats almost anyone just in a striking match because he's just so tricky. He's a puzzle that you just can't figure out, even if you trained with him before. Ian Gary is maybe the best or one of the best strikers, creative, effective strikers at welterweight. And even he had to resort to grappling and had some trouble, with the point fighting style of MVP. So obviously if this fight gets to the ground, the massive advantage is on the side of Sam Patterson. So I get where people are coming from there, but I just think MVP's going to style on him. And you know what? I'm going to go a thing further. Sam Patterson is not good with the striking defense. I think MVP is going to knock him out and send a message to the UFC that says, hey, listen, I'm 38. My time in the UFC is short. I know he's not going to get a title run, although I would love to see that as a fan of the guy. But, start giving me some more notable names here because I'm just going to knock out this prospect and, keep it pushing. But it's a fight. Here's how I see this playing out. MVP wins, and everyone who's taken Sam Patterson is going to be like, damn, we were overthinking the fuck out of that. Sam Patterson wins, and everyone who took him is going to be like, we're a fucking genius, MVP's overrated, blah, blah, blah. So it's going to be very polarizing on either end, but again, bias is definitely in this, and I will admit that. I love MVP. He's one of my favorite fighters. I cannot pick against him here. I've never picked against him. It's always worked out for me, and I'm just not as high on Sam. It's not that I don't think Sam Patterson's good. I think Sam Patterson could eventually be a ranked fighter and have a really solid career. And I like him at welterweight, but MVP, man. He's lost to one guy in the UFC, and that is the guy that could very well be fighting for the title next to welterweight. And I know MMA math is not reliable, but I cannot go against MVP. This is a massive step down in competition. Even Jared Cannonier, I think, is better than Sam Patterson. I feel like there'd be a close fight, but I don't know. I just can't go against MVP here, so I'm going to take him. Decision is plus 210. Knockout is plus 185. Under 2.5 rounds, I think that covers, like I said, I see MVP chinning Sam Patterson here. But it also covers Sam Patterson maybe landing a shot or getting this fight to the ground and getting a submission off. So, and then the old alternate double chance, only playing one this week, so a better hit, MVP knockout or Sam Patterson sub. So that's going to be all my plays there. I know I went a little bit longer on this fight than the other ones, but I'm just a big fan of MVP, so I can't go against him here. I know you shouldn't bet emotionally, but I think there's some logic to that as well. If you look at the guys that MVP has fought and beaten, versus Sam Patterson, who again isn't bad, but I just don't rate the fact that they're training partners as some. Last point I'm going to make on this. The only way I see MVP losing this fight is if he makes a mistake. If he throws something and slips and falls to the cage. We saw that against Jared Cannonier. Fell to the ground. Jared Cannonier immediately got on top. Kevin Holland took him down. I get that, but that's just the only way I see him losing this fight is if he makes a mistake and gets caught or taken down and Sam Patterson's able to get his back. If he's on the feet this whole time, it's not going to be close. So that's all I'm going to say. That's the last thing I'm going to say there. MVP and all the bets that I had listed. Co-main event, Luke Riley and Michael Aswell. I'm going to go Luke Riley here, be kind of quick with this. I think Luke Riley is a really, really good prospect. He trains with Shamrock, who we talked about earlier, and Paddy Pimblett out of that same camp. And the thing for Michael Aswell for me, is in that 4-ounce Fight Club camp with, Josh Van and Alden Correa there in Texas. I like Michael Aswell, but, he's more of a volume striker. I don't think the power is really even near the level of Luke Riley. Luke Riley is a great counter puncher with the hooks. We saw it in his debut against Bogdangrad. That's a pretty good opponent to make your debut against. And he lost that first round. And a lot of these guys, these younger fighters in their debut, if it's not going well right away, they maybe start to panic and crumble. This dude came out, stayed composed, landed the big shots, got the knockout on Bogdangrad. And again, at 26, I mean, Michael Aswell's young too, don't get me wrong, but at 26, fighting in a camp, fighting in a camp with Paddy Pimblett, say what you want about Pimblett after his title fight, but, and I know Michael Aswell's in a good camp too, but, home fight, I think the power is much more on the side of Luke Riley. And, Michael Aswell with these boxers that have to chain together combinations that leaves you open to be counterstruck. And I think Luke Riley is going to land a big left hook counterstrike here and knock out Michael Aswell. But I could also see him, just having the moments, the bigger shots in the fight. And again, home crowd, I could see him taking a decision here. So same thing I did with MVP in the CLD fights, bonus bets on both the decision and knockout lines. But Luke Riley, knockout or TKO, parlay piece is going to be another play for me. And finally, the main event, Movsar Evloev and Lerone Murphy. Thankfully, this is taking place. I know Evloev just arrived in London like this week. So maybe that's kind of a red flag for some of you that are on him. I could definitely understand that. Thankfully, this fight is going down. Lerone Murphy, I mean, both these guys are undefeated. Murphy coming off the spinning back elbow against Aaron Pico, at that crazy... the card where Hamzat fucking just laid on top of DDP for 5 rounds. But Carlos Praches and Lerone Murphy, the 2 fights before that, both spinning back elbow knockouts. I'm going to go Evloev by decision. Lerone Murphy just gets taken down so much, man. And he's really good at getting back up. And this is a great point that I've heard about Lerone Murphy is, yes, he has been taken down, but at the end of the day, he is 17-0 for a reason. Despite the fact that he's taken down, he's getting back up and outpointing these guys and is the better striker to winning fights or even getting knockouts like he did against Aaron Pico. But I just think Movsar Evloev is another level. I mean, even to that of Aaron Pico, who was looking really good until he got sent to the shadow realm by the elbow of Lerone Murphy. Definitely better wrestler than Josh Emmett, who was able to pick up and slam Lerone Murphy. I mean, everybody's talking about Lerone Murphy in his debut. I can't even think of the guy's name off the top of my head, but what was it? Won by split decision or something. So the takedown should be there for Movsar Evloev, but I do think Lerone Murphy's going to be able to get back up and keep it close. And one thing I'm going to be really interested in, because we've seen Lerone Murphy in 5-round fights. Movsar Evloev has never been in a 5-round fight, and I watched an interview with him. He said he's sparred for 10 rounds before and maybe had 5-round fights on his amateur, maybe early pro, but never at the UFC level. So I'm going to be interested to see how he looks over 5 rounds, especially as the away fighter here, coming into London with Lerone Murphy. And I do think both of these guys, obviously Lerone Murphy showed that he can land a crazy shot and knock someone out, but I think Movsar Evloev is a little bit underrated in the striking department. I think he's got some pop in his hands. Everyone will talk about, he wobbled Arnold Allen with a jab. John Silva couldn't even put Arnold Allen out of there. Maybe if John Silva had 5 rounds to do it, he probably could have. But, I think Movsar Evloev's striking is a little underrated because everyone always anticipates the takedowns, and certainly they come. But I think he's got some pop in his hands. So, 9 times, or maybe not 9 times, 8 times out of 10, I see this fight going to decision either way. But, I wouldn't put it past either of these guys. If it's Evloev with ground and pound or Lerone Murphy, just landing that perfectly timed shot like he did against Aaron Pico, I wouldn't put it past them to find a, shock knockout here. But at the end of the day, I'm going to go Movsar Evloev by decision. But I am going to take Lerone Murphy on the spread plus 7.5. Plus 5.5 at minus 135. Because again, I really favor Lerone Murphy in rounds 4 and 5, and he's going to be able to get up. I know Evloev is a great wrestler, but you have such bad takedown defense, and the fact that you're still 17-0 tells me that he gets up and he stays in it and he lands the striking. So, and again, home fight. So I'm going to say Evloev wins, 49-46 and then 2 48-47s in there. So that would cover the plus 5.5. And then, the bonus bets on both fighters to win by knockout because the odds are really wide, but I could see it. I don't know. Again, 8 times out of 10, I think this goes to a decision either way, but, in this sport, there's always that puncher's chance, and it only takes one. Just ask Eric Pico and his fight with Lerone Murphy. Was looking great for 3.5 or however many minutes of that first round, and then just gets caught. So, and I cashed on Lerone Murphy as a dog in that fight. So I love Lerone Murphy for that, but I think Evloev gets it done here and challenges Volkanovski for the featherweight title after. So, yeah, that's going to be all my picks. So, like I said, we're going to combine the pick confidence, rating that we went 13 to 14 on last week, baby. That's going to be right here. 1 through, I think there's 14 again in this card. Maybe 13, but top to bottom there, those are just the picks based purely off of confidence in who I think are going to win. So, yeah, like I said, we went 13 out of 14 last week. There's a few coin flip fights in here for me. I don't think we do that again, but if so, then good for me, I guess. Now, the one prop for every fight parlay, I need to actually start tracking these and see how many legs hit. Again, at the end of the day, I'm throwing either bonus bets or like $10 or less on these. So if you are tailing these with me, or even if you're fading them, please do not put anything more than a couple bucks on it, or bonus bets, like I said. But one of these days, baby, one of these days. But there's one prop for every fight. And then to close this thing off, here is the ROI for the year, the last 3 cards as well. Hopefully we can keep the good streak going. But like I said, I got a lot of house money out there thanks to those bonus bets. So, at the end of the day, I'm probably going to be in the green. But like I said, I did play a lot of the bonus bets plays with my actual money. So it'll still, be reflective in my record and, how I'm feeling after the card. But I'm feeling good. I got pretty much, I actually still am looking at some lines I want to play, but I've got pretty much everything I want to play out there. We got March Madness this weekend too. So it's a big betting weekend. So like I say all the time, if you are betting, please be responsible. Do not bet what you cannot afford to lose, and only do with your money what you are comfortable with. Do not take my takes and opinions as gambling advice. If you agree with me, great. If you disagree with me, may the better man win. So anyway, that'll do it. I'll try to get this out tomorrow. UFC London does start at 1 p.m., so it's a nice afternoon card, which I'm excited for. And yeah, hopefully next week, got a little more time where I can split up the content a little bit more. But anyway, that'll do it for me. I'll see you guys next time when we recap UFC London. Goodbye.